gosh, you're old. I mean, it's rude. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am right now waiting for my Uber. It's actually my brother-in-law, but it's the same thing. We're about to take off down to Diamond to pick up the McLaren. It's been at my house for about 2 weeks after the wrap, and it's just getting touched up. So once a wrap settles, they go back in and make sure all the seams and everything are set. Also, we're getting the windows tinted. And I can't wait to take a look at the car with the windows tinted because something tells me it's gonna look even better. It's so great having this car back, guys. Seriously, like, this car is one of those cars, like, every time I get in it, I'm just reminded on how much fun and how much I love it. The window tint looks sick on the car. You know, buying a supercar, you kind of don't really realize how many people take pictures of you or look in your direction as you drive by. And not having the windows tinted, you absolutely feel like you're sitting in a fishbowl. And then you throw a wrap with these crazy colors on there, and the looks I get are even more so. So having these windows tinted just makes me feel a little bit more comfortable and not so much like I'm sitting in a fishbowl. Unfortunately though, I can't roll down the windows and rev the engine or anything along those lines. So hopefully the audio is picking up some of the engine noises just like this. So right now we're headed down to Stewart's Automotive to take a look at the Aston. So the Aston had a check engine light, as I told you guys in a few videos ago. It turned out it was just a sensor, and that sensor needed to be ordered from Aston Martin directly. Now we tried to get one from an Aston Martin dealership down in Newport. Unfortunately, they didn't have it in stock, so we actually have to order it from Aston Martin in England. And right now we're working at 3 weeks and the part still hasn't arrived. So I'm gonna check in and see how that's coming, if they've got an ETA, and when I might get the Aston Martin back in the garage. So I don't know if the audio is picking it up for you guys or not, but there is a low rumble coming from the back. Now, obviously I know I'm in a McLaren. You're thinking, well, there's always low rumble. Now this one sounds different. There's something going on back there that wasn't there before. It only happens at low RPM. Like right now I'm waiting for the stoplight, and as we're moving traffic forward, it's more pronounced. So I'm hoping it's picking it up on what you guys can hear. Either way though, I think it's time to get the McLaren in for service because something's not right. Now, I did buy the extended warranty when I bought the car, so I'm not overly concerned, but McLarens aren't known for their reliability. So I want to get this fixed before that warranty goes out. Okay, so update on the Aston Martin. The sensor that we're waiting for has left the factory, so it's supposed to arrive at some point this week. The install of this sensor is a half an hour. So we've been waiting 3 weeks, going on 4 weeks for this part for a half an hour install. It's mind-blowing. Anyway, hopefully the Aston comes home this week. So guys, like the title of this video suggests, when I get home, I'm gonna run through a list of all the cars I've owned in my life and kind of how I've gotten here. It's kind of fun to think through all the cars I've owned, and when I list them out, you'll probably laugh a little bit, as I've owned the same car several times. But yo guys, this car looks so much cleaner with the windows tinted. That fishbowl, well, it's disappearing. I just love having this car back in the garage. When it is gone, seriously, I miss it. I mean, the Wrangler is a lot of fun and the Aston's a lot of fun, but there's just nothing like the McLaren. Just needs a little bit more carbon. Wait, what? Okay guys, so like I was saying in the car, one of the questions I get asked probably more than any other question is how many cars I've actually owned. It's seemingly because the list goes on for forever. So we're gonna go through my car history real quick. It's kind of eclectic, if you will, and kind of fun. Now, one caveat, I'm not gonna include any project cars. I've had a few of those. I'm not gonna include any classic cars that I tried to restore. Notice I said try to restore. Never actually finished. I'm not gonna include those. And I also have one car that is a little more special that actually won an award at a car show. And we'll talk about that in another video. So this is gonna be the slew of cars I had that were essentially daily drivers or pretty darn close, similar to what I have now. Guys, before we go down the list, don't forget to subscribe and like today's video. It really helps the channel grow, and like I said, every time the channel grows, those builds with the McLaren and the Aston Martin and the next car that I've got in my mind, they get even better. Also guys, if you haven't already, check out this video. It's the wrap on the McLaren, plus there's a giveaway, so make sure you get entered. I'm giving that away in about a month. Okay, so now on to the list. Now, my first car, like many of you, was a hand-me-down. I didn't really get a nice car, and like some enthusiasts, my hand-me-down wasn't exactly a nice car either. My hand-me-down was my sister's old car as it started to fall apart and she bought a new one. It was a 1988 Hyundai Excel hatchback. Yeah, that ugly thing. And that car ended its stay with me in a blaze of glory. Coming off the freeway in downtown Sacramento, quite literally the engine caught on fire and I never saw that car again. My second car was also a hand-me-down. It was actually my dad's old pickup truck. It was a 1986 Nissan pickup truck. And I stress that only because it still said Datsun all over the car. So the steering wheel and the glove box still said Datsun. Now on the outside it still said Nissan, but there were plenty of Datsun logos still in this car. It was actually a pretty cool truck, if I'm honest with you, with one feature that stood out to all my friends that equaled the coolness with not so cool, and that is it had a camper shell on the back, but like the old bubble window camper shell and a carpet liner in there, which I know many of you are thinking a 16-year-old with a carpet-lined truck bed sounds awesome, but visually it looked like a grandpa. After that one, I got what I used to describe as a teenager as the Mona Lisa of cars. I bought a 1989 Honda CRX SI that was completely customized. It had an HKS exhaust and intake. It had headers, it had camshafts, it had sway bars, it had wheels and tires. It was lowered. It was painted candy apple red. It had a body kit throughout. It had the door handle shaved off, so with the remote, a little hydraulic thing would push out the doors. The car was absolutely stunning. At that age, to buy that car, it was ridiculous. Now, the car had a salvage title. That's really the only way I could afford it back then. But it didn't matter. Visually, this car was great. And it drove like a dream. If you've never driven that era's Honda CRX SI, you're really sort of missing out. That car had a feel to it that really not many cars since then had. It was an awesome car. Anyway, that one also died in a blaze of glory. Not a fire necessarily, but driver error, switching lanes a little too fast, fishtailed the back end, and rather than hitting the gas to straighten the fishtail, I panicked and hit the brake and slid across traffic into an oleander bush on the freeway. Yeah, that one hurt. That one hurt. My next car I bought was a 1995 Acura Integra GSR. Now, this is the first car I dove all into modifying. I added a Greddy exhaust, DC Sport headers, AEM intake. I lowered the car about 1.5 inches. We put 18-inch TSW trophy wheels on there. We added an audio system on there that was second to none. Honestly, I spent a small fortune on this thing. That car was fantastic. And that actually, to date, is one of the longest tenured cars in my lineup. I owned that car for almost 5 years. I ended up selling it mainly because the mileage got up there and I was having kids, and getting kids into the backseat of an Integra was kind of a pain. So this next set of cars, I want you to keep in mind, I had kids at the time, so these aren't your enthusiast cars for the most part. There's a sprinkling of some really cool cars in there. But I bought cars like a Chevy Trailblazer LTZ. The LTZ model honestly came with all the bells and whistles, DVD player, TVs, you name it, this car had it. It was pretty fantastic. After that, I actually had two back-to-back Honda Civic SIs, both coupes, both two-doors. And that was mainly because I was commuting all over town. So I needed a car that was efficient, but I also wanted a car that I could have some fun with. Again, no modifications to any of these. I had kids, guys. I didn't have time nor money to modify my cars. So guys, the next car on this list is one of my favorite cars I've ever owned. And I think everybody has that car that they wish they had kept from years ago. Well, that's this one for me. And it is a 2002 BMW M3, the E46. Yes, I own that in a manual. It was an amazing car. I owned it for about 2 years, never had a single problem with that car. I loved that car and drove it all over the place. It was fantastic. Next on the list comes like this truck phase I was in. So I bought a Ford F-150 crew cab. And I know crew cabs are now kind of the norm, right? Everybody has a four-door truck and everybody sees it. But back then, the crew cab was still sort of new, and it just kind of blew you away in the way that this Ford looked. It was an amazing truck. I really enjoyed it. But at the time, it drove like a truck, and I had mainly had cars. Yes, I had the Trailblazer, but it was the LTZ kind of supercharged engine. It didn't drive like an SUV. And so this was my first truck, and I gotta be honest with you, after about a year, I couldn't take it anymore, and I wanted to dump this thing very quick. But I still knew I needed that type of vehicle. So I was determined to find a truck out there that fit that need, but also gave me a little bit more of a thrill to drive. And that came the Dodge Ram 1500. It was a 4x4, it was lifted, it drove and looked fantastic. It was right around the time of the redesign, so it was in all the movies, it was all the craze. Everybody wanted the Ram 1500 at the time, and I got one, and I absolutely loved that one. I kept it for about 3 years. So guys, after the truck phase, I jumped back into cars, and I wanted something with a little bit more enthusiasm. My kids were getting older, it was easier for me to get them in and out of cars, and I really wanted that feeling again. So I bought a Hyundai Genesis Coupe, the 3.8 liter V6, 350 horsepower, I believe at the time. That was an awesome car. It was in this beautiful blue color. I really enjoyed it. And in fact, my idea at the time was to buy it, drive it for a few years, kind of shelve it into the garage, and then give it to my son when he turned 16. Except that he didn't like the car. He didn't think it was an attractive looking car, and he kept saying it was a Hyundai. I got a Hyundai for my first car. I don't know what his deal is. What's crazy is now he wishes he had that car. Like I told you. Guys, after the Genesis, we went into another Honda Civic. And I know you're thinking, what in the world? Honda Civic SIs, they're a blast to drive, especially if you grab them in a manual. An amazing car to drive, and they get great fuel efficiency. So when I'm commuting all over town, I kind of have the enthusiast experience, but in a car that doesn't break the bank at the gas station. So yes, I bought another one, and I think that's my 6th Honda Civic Si. Now I haven't bought any more since then, but again, there you go. So after the Civic Si, I bought a BMW 550i. Now, I didn't go with the M5 at the time, and honestly, I regretted that decision, but the 550i gave a lot of car for the money, and honestly drove dang near as well as the M5. I enjoyed that car quite a bit. In fact, I missed that car. I owned it for about 2 years and have thought several times of buying another one. Now, I know BMWs have a bad rep, but this car was flawless. Never once did it go in for service other than oil changes and tire rotations, things along those lines. So then comes another Honda Civic Si, and I know I said I didn't buy another one, and I forgot, and I looked at my list, and sure enough, yes, another Honda Civic Si. Now this one, again, just like the Hyundai from previous, I bought this with the intention of giving it to my son, and he didn't want it. And the main reason he didn't want the Honda Civic Si is he wants a rally car, and he's always had this fascination with Volkswagen, Jettas, Golfs, things along those lines. So the Civic just didn't speak to him in the way that I hoped it did, or shall I say in the way it does to me. Clearly, I've owned all of them. So after the Civic is when I start buying the cars that you guys know I've had on the channel. So I bought the Tesla Model 3 Performance, then I bought the McLaren 650S, the Aston Martin DB9, and now the Wrangler that is in my garage. And as you can see, guys, I've bought a lot of cars over the years. So I've experienced quite a bit. Cars that caught on fire, cars that ended up in bushes, cars that were flawless, and cars that seemed to be in and out of the shop every other day of the week. And again, I didn't go over any of our project cars or the one car that's just too good of a story not to share in its own video. If you want to hear any of those, leave a comment down below and I'll totally do that. It's a lot of fun. So guys, again, a quick update on the garage. The Aston Martin is still waiting on the part, like I mentioned earlier in the video. Hopefully that comes back soon. I still haven't unveiled it. You guys haven't seen it from the body shop yet, and I'm hoping I can do that relatively soon. Honestly, the getting parts is starting to become a nightmare. The wheels for the McLaren, they're about 6 weeks out, so part of that same thing. But the McLaren, in the meantime, I think I need to send it into McLaren for service. There's a noise coming from the rear, and I want to get that taken care of. I think it's a bushing, but I don't know for sure, so I'll keep you guys posted on that. And guys, one last thing. If you're not a part of that giveaway in that last video, just jump over there. The giveaway will be done in about a month, and it's a pretty cool Chemical Guys cleaning kit. So if you like your ride to shine, I got the hookup. Anyway, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, please smash that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.